And one of the things I always try to say to people is be your biggest fan. Just be your biggest fan. Because if you wait, and this is the truth, if you wait for somebody else to be your biggest fan, you may wait forever and they may never show up. And what a pity that is. What a pity that is.
Welcome to the Funny in Failure podcast, a podcast that celebrates failure and shines the light on the emotional side of comedy, with yours truly, Michael Kahan.
Howdy, howdy, howdy. It's great to be back. In some exciting news, I've recently got married. That's where I've been. I'll try not to leave you again for so long. And yes, I had an amazing time. I'm very happy and life is good. Today's chat, what a great way to start the new season. Michelle is eloquent, empowering, fun, and we had an all-around brilliant and inspiring chat. I love Michelle, and you can see why she's been thriving for so long. Just a great human being, and I'm very grateful that I had her on for a chat. Okay, enough of my compliments. Let's get into it. Michelle Hurd is an actor who recently starred as Raffi opposite Patrick Stewart for 3 seasons on Star Trek Picard. She also recently starred alongside Sweeney and Glenn Powell in the global smash Anyone But You. On the television front, her list of credits is insane. She recently completed production on the 5th and final season of You for Netflix. Some of her other television credits include Shepherd on NBC's hit drama Blindspot, Lethal Weapon, Ash vs. Evil Dead, Daredevil and Jessica Jones, The Glades, A Walking Dead City, Pose, Hawaii 5-0, Devious Maids, 90210, The Witches of East End, How to Get Away with Murder, Bosch, Mysteries of Laura, Pretty Little Liars, Raising Hope, The Good Wife, Law and Order, SVU, Gossip Girl, ER Bones, According to Jim, Law and Order, Smith, Skin, Leap Years, Charmed, The OC, Kevin Hill, The Practice, and Another World. Whew. And some of her film credits include the upcoming The Designer, 25 Miles to Normal, Where the Wind Blows, The Plus One, Kemba, Somewhere in Montana, Inheritance, Bad Hair, Being Frank, Be Afraid, We Don't Belong Here, Search Engines, Within the Dark, Girl Most Likely, Random Hearts, Personals, Double Parked, Woof, and The King of New York. Michelle was also recently the SAG-AFTRA National Vice President of Los Angeles and is currently the chair of SAG-AFTRA Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee. For her commitment to union work, Michelle received the SAG-AFTRA President's Awards for the union service in 2021. So as you can imagine, we dive deep and we cover a lot, and we chat about having dyslexia, being immersed in the Star Trek world, working in the business for 30 plus years, her many roles with SAG-AFTRA, martial arts, the joy of K-pop, being your own champion, rejection, authenticity, and uniqueness, plus plenty more. Before we get into this epic chat, in case you aren't aware, the videos are now available on YouTube under Michael Kahan. That's Kahan with a K, unless you're listening to it already. I'll still be posting snippets of these chats on Instagram under Funny in Failure, so check them out if you want to stay in the loop for upcoming episodes, or you want to ask a guest a question. I'd also love it if you would share the podcast or share your takeaways from the chat. It really motivates me, helps the podcast grow, and ensures I can lock in amazing guests like this one. And just as a final reminder, the podcast comes out at 3:30 Melbourne, Australian time, with the full video of the podcast to be released the following day. Okay, cool. Thank you. Let's get into it. I know that you love Korean dramas. Can you tell me why you love K-pop? You just lit up. Tell me about it. What does it do?
I am obsessed. I am neck deep into K-dramas. My sister turned me on to them, and I am not going back. Well, there's a couple of things. On a technical thing, which I find so interesting, I'm dyslexic, and I like to I like to watch them in their native tongue, so I don't want it to be dubbed, so I read subtitles. Because I'm dyslexic and I don't read fast, even when I'm just reading a book, I read very slowly. I will watch it and I will pause and I'll rewind and pause and rewind and pause and rewind because I have to try to read it. And then I may go back to the beginning of the scene now that I know what's being said, and I'll watch it so I can watch the actors.
Yeah.
What I have found is that because it takes all of my focus, because I have to really try to read and understand and comprehend, and then I watch, the outside world's chatter or any problems or stresses or anything that I have completely goes away because all I do is focus on the K-drama. When
Nice.
you're watching, a typical TV show or a movie in your home, at least for me, I find that I can watch I'll be watching something and then all of a sudden I reach for my phone and I'm like, clicking through the phone, then I'm watching it again. Then all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's something I wanted to, get on Amazon, whatever. And I get on the computer. So there's multiple things that I allow myself to be distracted by. But with the K-dramas, it takes up all of my focus. And therefore it's so satisfying. It calms me. It's one of my favorite. I've been doing a lot of Comic-Cons this summer, and my absolute favorite thing is when I get on the plane. We haven't even taken off yet, and I am sitting there, headphones on, head down, and I am in. So much so that the stewards always have to come over and they put their hand in front of my face. Literally, they're like, "Excuse me, miss, could you, seatbelts or whatever." Yeah.
Hold on, I'll finish this scene. Yeah.
Exactly. 1 second.
I've just started, but I've been watching Shogun. And
Oh,
because half of it or more than half of it is in Japanese, I have to be fully present, and I love it.
I love that you love that because you have to be focused.
And it can't be on my phone. Like someone's going for the phone. Okay, I've missed it. I have to go back. And there's something, because it's very hard in life to be fully present. That's why I love going to the movies, because you can't go on your phone, even though some people do. But I love it. And the full presence. So for you, is it just like this time to be alone, to be with you, enjoy, it's play and fun, it's full presence? What else does it do for the soul?
Well, also, so that's a big thing. And I only sort of really noticed that once I kind of came home and I was like, oh, this is so interesting, because I've saved watching the K-dramas for the plane, and now I start watching it at home, and I'm like, oh, I'm focused on it. But also, to give them as much credit as they deserve, the DP work, the cinematography, the editing, the sounds, the score, the writing is really good. Every single character on the K-drama is fully developed. Like, they're all very, unique and deep and complex. And what I really love, obviously, is that the women, and particularly the older women, have so much to do. Like, they give the women these really thick, yummy, delicious characters. If they have a woman villain, oh my goodness, she is evil. Like, she's so good. Like, just gets a dish to eat, And then as well, and it's not that I'm a prude or anything, but I think I'm just tired of my American entertainment. I love how they love. They use space really well. Like, when the two characters may first meet or they acknowledge that they like each other, they'll stand with space between them, and the camera will come out. It'll make the picture larger. You'll see the, background. You'll might hear some, music, some flowers, whatever. And then the two actors will just stand, hands at their side, no fidgeting, no, like Americans, like we're scratching our arms, picking our nose and doing all this stuff because we're so real. They literally just stand so still. And then, like a grab of a hand, this will be a shot. Like, they'll do a close-up of that.
Oh, I love
and then
that.
they'll do a close-up of this. And then a big thing is the hug, an embrace. You'll see them come to each other and they embrace, not come to each other like, in our shows, and we're like, up against the wall and hurting yourselves. And you're like, why are you doing that on a stairway? Why not a bed? But, they just do a hug. And it's just sort of glorious. And it just lets you, as the audience, fall in love and fill in the blanks and take deep breaths and get swept away. I love it.
I love how you've painted that. It makes it feel like a real life. Because like when you watch, for example, sitcom, you're like, there's no way that would ever happen. The Staircase, by the way, that is hilarious, underrated comment. I just love that. And I don't know if you do this, but I think you need to get into more of writing and directing based on just talking about the shots and the writing and how they come together. And you're talking about the angles. Is this something that you are looking into or you have been doing?
I have directed on stage, but I've not directed on film, television or film. And Sir Patrick Stewart, he was one of the people who, during our first season, he said that to me too. He
Of
literally
Picard,
was like,
for people that don't know.
yeah, Picard. He literally, because I am obsessed with cinematography and DP work and cameras and lenses and different angles and editing and like I always say, I love a strong director's point of view because I love watching when I'm watching any storytelling, television or film. I love when a director's point of view is so strong that they dictate where I look. So, example, when I'm watching a movie and if I'm watching a movie and all of a sudden I start looking at like the background artist or I'm looking at like someone's shoes or like, oh, where is that? And I'm starting to do something else. That means the director has lost me because I'm no longer focused on what I should be focused on. When I'm watching some kind of a program and I am locked in that story and they are pulling my eye and telling me where to go, and usually that's from interesting shots, always good story, right? It's always the script.
Yeah.
But it's from, like, I mean, example, like we just talked about, like, the staircase sort of things. I always find when they're sort of love scenes, why not get creative? Like, why not take the camera and shoot it through, a curtain or, there's an apple on a table and, you see the two people walk behind the apple and, be creative and make it sweeping and making big. To have a camera just sort of a wide and there's the two people going to town. It's not storytelling, then it's just porn. It's just porn.
There is a fair bit of it. How nice is it to, Sir Patrick Stewart says, I reckon you can do this. And, you've been doing this for a while. You've been feeling it you've probably been like, I can do this. But then to get someone I can go, I reckon you can do this. What does that do for you?
I mean, first of all, I absolutely adore, love, respect that man who's my friend, who I get to say is, in my cell phone and I can text him. I mean, I can't explain what that feels like. And it really did. It gave me, he made it really clear. He was like, this is your crew, Star Trek Picard, this is your cast and crew. They love you. You know them. They know you. You respect them. They respect you. This is the safest place that you can really begin that kind of work. And I was all into, we had talked to the producers and we were going to, I was going to direct the second season. And then COVID happened, everything got shut down, pandemic. Then we got back into production and, we couldn't do any kind of things. There was no shadowing other directors. We couldn't bring up sets. It had to be very scaled down. And so, I didn't get to do it, but he absolutely set the seed in my little brain. And I definitely want to do that. But, as he said, when he first directed, on Next Gen, it was he said, because it's my crew, that, lean on your crew, they'll help you. And once he got to lean in the crew and let them help him direct, he felt, after the first episode of doing that, he was like, oh, now I understand. And now I can take charge the next time. So I kind of feel like I want, once I get back into another series, whatever that series will be, I'm hoping that they're generous with allowing me to, direct an episode.
I think they will. And also a credit to you and obviously how you take notes and you work with your crew, that if someone like Patrick Stewart, I know it didn't work out, but it will work out. If he didn't think you could do it, it wouldn't have happened.
100%.
And so, number one on the call sheet, his power, I hate that word, but, for him to say that is like really nice and meaningful. So we're putting it out there. It's going to happen.
I love it. Thank you, Michael. We're manifesting it.
We,
It'll
we,
happen.
we definitely are. And from the writing side, also just how I do screenwriting as well, but just, the way that
Oh,
you were talking about it, just like the hand, that is such
yeah.
that, you can see paragraphs when I read scripts of them, like they gaze into each other's eyes and blah, 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 blah. But just the hand on the
Yes,
forearm, that's short, sweet, straight to the point.
that's
Tell me
right.
more about this. Anything in the works or just something that you are particularly
Oh,
aware of?
I wish I was a writer. I'm so envious of you. I really am, Michael, and I can't wait to see all the things that you write. And you can go ahead and write something for me. Um,
I've got
but
heaps.
I've just said it. It's out there. You can hold
Universe
me
has
to
already
it.
happened. We get 20 seasons of whatever.
Nice, nice. But I haven't sort of put pen to pad yet. I think because I love storytelling so much, I think, I feel that what we do, and I've said it many times, is a sacred art form. What we do has been around for centuries. You go into a cave and you see stick figures running away from a woolly mammoth, and
Mm.
that is storytelling. That was something that was, people wanted to convey to other people to help them. And to tell the truth, our art, art in general, whether it's painting or sculptures or music or dance or acting or writing or directing, it is the very backbone of humanity.
Mm.
It's what feeds us. It's the thread that actually connects us together. It's universal. It doesn't matter if like I'm watching K-dramas. I don't speak that language, but now all of a sudden I know serenge, I love you. And now I know that word, and it connects us as humans. So I'm so grateful for this art form. And, I think I'm in awe of writers. And because of that, I'm probably a little skittish of stepping in there, because I don't want to let people down. But I love supporting, so
Can
I'll
tell
amplify.
you're a great cheerleader in that regard. And also the way that you talk about just art in general, I wish I had you all that what you just said, that TED talk you just gave. Because when I was younger, and I'm embarrassed, but I'm also proud because it means I've come the other way. I did not value art. I remember we did debating at school and they're like, what's the point of art? And I was like, I don't know, it's a waste of money, the government, all this like crap. That's not even my own belief system. But then to come back and realize whether you do it
Mm,
professionally or not, what it does for one's literal being, it lights you up. Yeah, it's just there's something so powerful. I'm sure even like back at the college days when you're acting with your friends, and although it's like not on camera, the play and the fun and all of that just would have ignited something in you.
yes, yes, absolutely. I went to an acting school. I went to an acting college, and I mean, I'm the one who really loves doing all of that stuff. I joked with Garrett, my hubby, when we were doing Star Trek Picard, and there was times where I had a week of just nothing but night shoots. So you're starting at like 2 p.m. You're not ending till like five in the morning
Oh,
the
that's
next day.
brutal. Yeah,
I mean, it's brutal, absolutely brutal. And you would think we shot in California, you would think it's all nice and sunny, but no, when you're shooting out in the desert, it gets really cold. So you're
of
like,
course.
it's cold at night. But every single time I got home, I had the biggest smile on myself for 3 seasons. I kept saying, it's like my birthday every single day. There was not one day that was a bad day while I was shooting that show. It's just, I honor this art form. I just honor it so much. And as you can imagine, because of Raffi, because of her, because of her addiction, because of her struggles, because of her failures, and yet her vulnerability as well as her strength. I get so many people who come up to me at Comic-Cons and they say thank you for bringing to life as
Cool.
I always say, perfectly imperfect character, because I don't know about you, but I've never met a perfect person and I don't want to.
Yeah.
I certainly am not perfect. I got many, many flaws and I work on them daily, and I'm grateful for that, lesson and that challenge. I get because of Seven of Nine and Rafi, I get a lot of people in the LGBTQ community saying thank you so much for bringing a realistic relationship of two mature women. I talk a lot about the neurodiverse community because I feel that that's part of our Trek world, is the inclusivity of it. And I have people tell me so many stories about their neurodiverse individuals and their families, or them being themselves. As I said, I'm dyslexic, so I'm neurodiverse. But I think it's, the opportunity, the importance of seeing yourself represented in our world of art is so powerful. I have a nephew who is he's speech delayed and on the spectrum, and he's in his third year in college right now. Thank you very much. Third year in college, and he's an artist. He loves editing and he loves creating artistry and paintings and 3D art and art. Art. He sees himself create things, and that mere action of seeing yourself create something is so powerful because he knows that he can do something.
Nice.
As opposed to how the outside world may see him or may judge him. He knows he can do something. And that is where art saves lives.
It's so brilliant that I had a guest and he, very long story short, his daughter was, and please correct my language if it's not correct, she was highly autistic and they didn't think that she would be able to, I'm paraphrasing, wouldn't be able to get a job. And then, a little bit later in her life, she found being a makeup artist. And who would have thought that, that would be a career? And it's been amazing, not only for her, but the family, and she's lit up. And it's so beautiful when you can, because I grew up where, it was doctor, lawyer, accountant. Those are your only jobs. So it was never, and I worked as an accountant. So it was never a consideration that you could do all of the things that you're talking about. And I'm going on a tangent, but how nice, from the art side that you can do a job. It might not be an actor, but, there's such a wide sphere of things that you can do. And it's beautiful to see.
Did you hear that I saw on some program that for Game of Thrones, when they were doing the North, the snow, they hired some people who are autistic, highly
I didn't know this.
spectrum. Yeah, to animate the snowflakes into the scene, and they are so uber focused that they did that phenomenal job. I mean, as you just said, the variety of things that our neurodiverse community can do in the artistry world is countless, and it saves their lives. So I love
that.
That
is a great example, and it's so specific with the snowflakes. I want to talk about Star Trek in a moment, but dyslexia has come up a lot on the podcast, and I've got a gazillion questions. And to summarize, and you can't summarize a whole group of people, obviously, but essentially a lot of the dyslexic guests, and I've had family that are dyslexic as well, they've seen it as a superpower. However, you wouldn't have seen it, unfortunately, at the start of your life. There would have been a lot of self-worth. I'd love to. Oh, okay. Can you go a bit into that?
Oh yeah, it was terrible. I remember. It's so funny because I will always remember this. I think I was in sixth grade or something like that, fifth or sixth grade. And my mother came to because also remember, like, as you just said, the term dyslexia and you saying dyslexia wasn't really thrown around. People just we didn't really understand it. It just wasn't used and wasn't really acknowledged, honestly. And my mother had told my history teacher, which I won't name his name just because I'll be kind, remember it. She said that, my daughter is, and my mother is a psychologist right now. And so she's always been studying psychology.
And she's in her 90s as well.
She's 91 years young and still practices her therapy. She said, my daughter is dyslexic, and when she is asked to read in front of people something that she's never read, she gets even more nervous and her dyslexia kicks in overdrive. And so it becomes very challenging and embarrassing for her. So please, understand that. And if you could perhaps not have her read out loud in class, but she would be more than happy to read after class with you, before class with you, in a tutoring session, whatever, to show that she can read. And I was there with her when she had this conversation with my teacher. That very next day, the first thing he did in class was he called me. Yep. He called me and he told me to stand up and read. And it was crushing. It was absolutely crushing. Oh my God. And I remember the feeling of, because, kids are awful, feeling stupid and being mocked and really my own thought about myself is what was the most damaging, because
And
kids will
so
be
young. Yeah.
so young, so
Impressionable.
young. Yes, and you watch someone else read and they read effortlessly, and you're just like, why can't I do that? And I remember calling, crying and, going home. And my mother was so fabulous because she was born in Blackwell, Oklahoma, but she's, a New Yorker. So she was just like cursing that guy, just like, and she fought for me. And she's, I remember her going to the school the next day and talking to the dean and saying, this is inappropriate. And that rallying behind me really helped, because I felt like I wasn't wrong. But that was painful. That was painful. But one of the things that I learned early on, and I'm super glad that my family, they put me in martial arts, which is, I put my nephews in martial arts as well, both of including the one with the speech delay.
Oh, cool.
Because martial arts, you learn really quickly that through your own commitment, dedication, and repetition, you can achieve. You see it. Not someone else doing it, but you see it. So like you'll see that you have a kick that kind of goes here. And then all of a sudden your kick goes here. And then all of a sudden your kick goes here. And the only person who was able to make that kick go as high as it was me. And so I learned that I wasn't stupid. I wasn't dumb. I wasn't incapable. All I have to do was take the time I need to take to get to where I was. Perfect example of a modern day moment that this happened. I did the Star Trek cruise. And on the first day, they sort of assign all the actors things to do, and it's super fun, and I loved it. And one of the things they asked me to do was to play Trivial Pursuit, Star Trek Trivial Pursuit.
Oh, interesting.
And I was like, yeah, and I was like, okay, that's no problem. Just make sure I get the script beforehand. And they were like, sure, no problem. I didn't get the script. Nobody sent me a script. I kept asking, nothing happened. It comes to that day. I go to the place that I'm supposed to be. There's like 300 people there. I walk over to the woman. I was like, can I please see the script? And she's like, oh yeah, here's the script. She hands me the script and she starts talking to me. She's talking to me about, so you're going to stand over here, and I'm like, And I said, I'm sorry, I have to read this. I'm going to walk over here. And I literally, like, there's 300 people. And I sort of walked over to the corner and I'm trying to read this. And it's, it's Star Trek Trivial Pursuit. So there's all these words that are not, aren't in the English language, but they're in Star Trek, names and planets and, and I'm just like, oh my God. And so now it's time to start. And I get up there and and I've got like my readers and I've got a mic and I've got the script and I'm, everything is just, it's all kind of stressful for me, which, if you know dyslexia, that's not.
It would even be stressful for me, just, that
Right.
many people reading like basically foreign language in some degree. Even, I'm
Yes, with
stressed
all
just
those
hearing
eyes
it.
on you. Exactly. It's a lot of pressure. So I start reading it and I'm stumbling a little bit and then I stopped and I said, you guys, I'm just going to level with you here because it's just going to help me. I'm dyslexic. I just got this script. I think you might have seen me try to run over to the corner and read it. I didn't get to read it through. So I'm gonna, I may say some strange words. I might stumble. I will lean on you guys to help me out. But just know that this is what I'm doing. So we get through the whole thing. And the MO was that you would read the question and then read the answers, A, B, C, D, E, G, whatever, A, B, C, D, and then read it again and read it again. And we got to the end of the event and we're about to sort of tally up who's the winner. And before we did that, I said, wait, before we do that, can I just ask you guys, did you notice that the first time I read the things, it was a little bumpy, but the second time I read it, it was clearer. So all that means to say is that when you're neurodiverse, we will get to where you need us to go. It just may take us a little time. And that was the first day of the cruise. And for the rest of the 7 days of the cruise, people came up to me. I mean, it was so beautiful. People came up to me and they said, thank you for talking about it, for saying it. My child's dyslexic. I'm dyslexic. My child's neurodiverse. I'm neurodiverse. Everybody told me about a story about themselves or a person in their family who's on the spectrum. And that by speaking it, by saying it, by talking about it, not hiding, not making it embarrassing or shameful, by making it normal, we all could really embrace each other and support each other as opposed to judge each other. And I that's why I talk about it, and we should all always talk about it.
brilliant example. Even, with the martial arts and the kicking, it's a great life lesson. You can see it,
You
the
can
different
see it.
levels, because sometimes we can't see it, so we don't think it's possible for us. And also great example with the dyslexia. And it's so nice also when you explain something like that, people are really rally around, especially like with the love and the way that you say it. People are great in that regard as well. And then, by you showing them, they also then can feel safer to reveal their stuff. And
Exactly.
this just springs to mind, and I'm not dyslexic by any means, but I resonate strongly. I went to a different school for a few years and I had like a fake teacher. I don't know how to explain it. He wasn't actually a teacher.
Oh, that's weird.
And apparently they found out and he like fled to Italy. He didn't do
Oh,
any.
like that. Oh my God, like that kind of a thing, like fake, like
Yeah, I don't think he was a teacher. He never fully found out. And I really want to know. That's the one thing I like think about. Like he didn't do anything dodgy in other regards. So I want people to know, or that I'm aware of. But he wasn't an actual teacher, and you have the same teacher for 3 years. So I didn't learn, yeah, I didn't learn core curriculum. So I like my R's were the wrong way around. So I could read and write, but it wasn't quite inverted commas at a normal level. But then when I
Wow.
went to a mainstream school and they gave standardized testing, which I don't enjoy, they thought there was
Yeah.
something very wrong with me because I couldn't do division. I couldn't do certain
Right.
things. And it wasn't that I wasn't clever. Also, that's a very small way to judge someone's academics. I guess they don't have a better model at the moment. But anyway, and so I
Yeah.
thought there was something wrong with me because once you're kind of in those classes, they teach you. I'm very grateful for this experience. I think it's given me more
Mhm.
empathy and compassion and blah, blah, blah,
Yes.
blah, blah, blah. But I thought for so many years that there was something wrong with me. I'm not smart, my
Mm.
self-worth, and that what the testing said, there's something wrong with me. And now that, you have your example and what you said, it's really important to realize that there's so many different ways that you can be smart or that you're
That's right.
actually worth it and you're actually brilliant in your own mind. But we just kind of think there's the one way. And if you don't fit in that box, there's something wrong with you. So back to you, you would have
Yeah.
had probably all those feelings, maybe times 10. And because it's not necessarily in the language at that time as well, to then still, be the empowering lady that we see today, to still pursue acting, which blows my mind because that's probably one of the scariest things. Like, what made you actually have the confidence to pursue something that you love?
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of things. One, I have to also give it to, and I hope everybody out there who is struggling with these sort of things takes this into consideration. If you are struggling like with math or science, but you're really good at, English and PT, physical things, go lean into those things that you're really good at. Lean into those things because it's really important for us to see ourselves achieve. Oftentimes in our school systems, they sort of go, well, she's terrible at math, so we have to, you got to learn math. We got to, we're going to force you to learn math. And, which if you think about it, if you already are having trouble and now it's becoming this thing that you have to do, it's only going to stress you out more. So your ability to see yourself capable, just being capable, starts to be diminished because you don't think you're capable. But if you can encourage the things that they're really good at, then don't worry. The other things will come. It will come when when it needs to.
It also builds sorry for interjecting. I know we
Yes,
said that,
please.
sorry, but it also builds the confidence knowing, I'm actually good at something because whereas
Yes.
me and other people I've spoken to, you'd focus on what you're not good at. Whereas if you focus on what you're good at, it actually helps the whole. Sorry, continue.
It's yes, thank you for that. That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And like I always say about dyslexia, there's a linear way for neurotypical people to get from A to B. It's linear, right? It's still clear, straightforward. For neurodiverse people, we go around the corner, we go down an escalator, up an elevator, we stop and look at the lights, we come back and we get there. But when we get there, we're so much more informed. Like my sisters always say that when we read the same book or even watch the same story, I will absorb more details because I take a lot more time reading because I have to, because I can't just reading like this is just not going to happen. I'm not going to be able to buzz through anything. It takes me a long time, but nobody, I'm not in a race. I'm alone. It's perfectly fine. I'm completely on time and I can take the time that I need. But when I finish that book or that movie or that TV show and you ask me a question, I will tell you many, many details because I have absorbed all of that information. I've created pictures in my brain so that it goes along with the words that I was trying to figure out. It's more 3D than just flat. And the whole thing about acting, my whole family has been in the arts. They're actors and activists. So
Cool.
I got that running through my blood when I was a little munchkin. I'm the third. Here's the little family. There's the family.
Cute.
That's actually in Jamaica back in the day. My father was Jamaican. I'm the baby, and I have two older sisters. And my immediate older sister is a dancer. And so at age, 3 or 4, she was being taken to dance class. And so then when I was old enough, my mom would just drop two of us off at dance class. So I'd sort of be there as well. And so I've always watched my sister perform on dance. My father was an actor and an opera singer. My mother used to be an actor, and my parents met on stage together. My eldest sister teaches at City College theater history, as well as she's an intimacy coordinator,
Cool.
an ID, which is an intimacy director, and a stage combat coordinator. So as a little one, I was like sort of the black sheep. I was just an athlete and, just kind of crazy. And, I had long arms, long legs, skinny little thing, and just, crazy hair. And, I had no sort of, like, what are you doing, Michelle? I don't know, but she's running, I just athlete. And then when I got to my senior year in college, high school, it's all of a sudden like, college, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? And I was just like, I'll act. I'll try. I'll audition for a theater school, I guess.
And there was there an acting bug planted, or was it just,
I think it was, I don't think it was planted. I think it was normal. It was just normal to see my family on stage. I'm a New Yorker. We grew up going to see free Shakespeare in the park at Delacorte, off Broadway shows. My dad would do regional theater as well as Broadway, but we'd travel to go see him do shows. Adrian, my sister, the dancer, would perform at Carnegie Hall, and it just seemed normal. So to stand on stage and speak just seemed like that's the normal thing that I'm supposed to do.
That's super cool. And I had, just while this point springs to mind, I had one guest and he thought acting would be quite a challenge for him. And obviously there's pros and cons. But you're saying one of the pros is that, and it's not a competition between him and anyone else, but how he can kind of see when he gets there, he can see the whole picture probably a bit clearer than the average person. Because as you said, you might go left to right, up and down, but you're seeing everything along the way. And I thought that was a brilliant way of seeing it. And I think that's why he's also such a good actor as well.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Exactly. We're taking it all in, all of it in.
You insinuated this earlier. When you went with martial arts, I heard you in another podcast say that you were a punk. So I'm not calling you a punk. You called yourself a punk. So
I was a punk.
Yeah, fair enough. I assume martial arts massively helped with that, and then also acting and finding more of your purpose?
Yeah. In fact, I think if it wasn't for martial arts, I don't think I would be an actor, because I was the youngest, and my eldest sister, the one who teaches at college, perfect SAT scores. I mean, she started reading like the dictionary when she was 6. She's just a brainiac. She's an academic. She's really, really, really smart. And then Adrian, being a dancer, starting at such a young age, and knew her path. I just didn't have that. Dyslexic at a young age, so reading was not something that I would go to. I was more athletic. I was a skinny, long arm, long leg thing. And, dance wasn't really my thing. Like, I remember taking a ballet class, and the teacher there was one moment where they would have the students like leap across the stage, and she would have a stick and she'd always raise it whenever I got there. She was dreadful. So mean.
Whoa.
And I was more athletic and not, elegant. So I didn't really have a place. And what I find so interesting in retrospect is because I ended up, I mean, it's sort of silly now when you think about it because it seems sort of benign, but Rocky Horror Picture Show, you know, the Rocky Horror Picture Show, the midnight show, that was very big when I was growing up on the 8th Street Playhouse. And, you know, there would be the matinee shows or the midnight shows every Friday and Saturday night. And I fell into this group of people who, you know, we would meet up at like 11 o'clock at night and, you know, hang out, and then we'd go to the, you know, show. And I played Columbia as well as Magenta in some of the performances. And it just became this kind of family. And in retrospect, I realized that teenagers, you know, sometimes they're just monsters, but it's really that they're just trying to find their space.
Yeah.
They want their thing, you know, like they want to claim their thing. And, you know, my eldest sister already had academia. My middle sister was already a dancer.
Gotcha.
I didn't have a thing.
Yeah.
And then this group of people watching Rocky Horror became my thing. And so I just ended up going out every weekend and hanging. I don't know how my parents just, you know, God bless them that they didn't just ship me off to, you know, send me to, I don't know, military place, or they just believed in me. But at a certain point, they for sure were worried, and they decided to get me into martial arts. And it was with martial arts, again, with understanding and seeing my own development. Plus, you know, with martial arts, you have to have respect. You have to have respect. You can't walk into a dojo without respect, period, or you'll be told to get out. And so respect became a big thing of you know, people who are older than me, of people who are more knowledgeable than me. Respect to myself became really clear. You know, like, it's funny that people think about martial arts and kids are like, oh, well, I don't want my child to become violent. It's the absolute opposite. The last thing you want to do when you start taking martial arts is have a fight on the street. It becomes something that's almost like disrespectful to to the art. Do you know, you would be like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to like punch you in the face. I mean, that's you know, that's,
yeah, we were always taught, not that I'm a martial artist by any means, but, you know, respect, but also this is something we're going to teach you, but we don't want you to use it. But for me, it was more about, and I didn't quite get this, but from speaking to guests and other people, the philosophies, the teachings, it obviously gave you a sense of like self and worth and realizing that you're okay. You know, you gave the
that's exactly it. Self-worth, self-esteem, self-respect. So many, you know, it gives you ownership of your person, of who you are, of how you are going to be walking this world, and how people are going to think of you and remember you. And it's because of that I really got myself into a more respectful, you know, path, and a productive path. Cool. And it made me want to, and it's also, you know, I also knew that I needed to get out. I needed to leave my childhood habits. Yes. I needed to leave New York and go to Boston, which is where I went to Boston University, and have that break from the bad habits that I had accomplished as a teenager.
That's hard.
It's incredibly hard, and I have to give it to my parents, because I don't know how else. I knew that was an important thing, but I knew that I needed to put me first. And what was beautiful was when I got to college, because also I hope people realize that when teenagers are acting out, and, you know, I don't know, maybe you think, oh, I got a bad egg, this kid's just annoying, you know, just, you know, curses at me, hates, you know, blah, 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 blah. Just know that when that child is alone after they had like a yelling match or whatever, they feel terrible. I felt terrible. Things would come out of my mouth, and I'd see it, and I'd want to snatch it back, but it's already out. Yeah. It's already out. And you had to go through it. You know, you had to, you know, double down.
The tantrum and get it out of the system.
Exactly. And then when you go to your room and you close the door, you're just like, you're mortified. You're just like, you know, did I hurt my family? Did I hurt my mom and dad by saying those? You know, it's painful. So when I got to college, it was a beautiful opportunity. And I remember saying it to myself. I said, Michelle, nobody knows you. No one knows you here. Let's start positive. Let's start with a different outlook on life. You don't need to be so, and I think it's fearful is why kids are that way. And I was like, you don't have to be so afraid and so scared and so vulnerable, so in pain. It's okay. It's okay. Let's embrace this thing that we're doing. Let's have fun. Let's enter into this with a more positive, love-focused attitude. And that's what I did.
That is brilliant. That is such a rare outlook, especially
Mhm.
at such a young age, especially going through it. Because when we're through it, we're not normally that our reasoning skills go out the door. But to
Yes.
still see it in the moment and see the change. And also you're in a bubble, you've got your family, we're all in bubbles. But to
Right.
actually go, I need to, do this for me for all the reasons you said. Very rare. So you still obviously, had strong awareness and still had that, and as you said, you
Yeah.
can credit your parents that, I want to be the best that I can be. But in that
Yeah.
moment, it's still pretty scary to even start martial arts, start something new. What was it like when you first started? Did you embrace it, or was it a bit of a,
I actually embraced it. I think it's because as soon as I walked through those doors and I saw this dojo and I saw all these students and they all had their gis on, and then you had the senseis and you had the mats, and, and I just was like, wow, this is pretty cool. This is pretty cool. I'm excited to try this out. And they welcomed me in, and there was just such a clear, I mean, it's so crazy to say, but there was a clear set of rules. There was a clear set of rules. And it was easy for me to figure out, like, oh, this is what you do and this is what you don't do. Copy that.
yeah,
Got it. And I think I needed that. And I think when we're teenagers, we don't actually realize how beneficial rules are. Because when you tell me, I have to stay in between these two barriers, well, then I have the, luxury of going crazy inside this area. I can go crazy,
yeah,
just do whatever the heck I want. When there's no barriers, then it's so broad. I can just, I'm doing, I can't, I have no grounding because I'm doing all this kind of stuff.
yeah, room for you to
You're
thrive.
trying this and you're drinking, you're smoking, you're doing all kinds of stuff. That's the cool kid. Let me go over there. Oh no, that's the cool kid. You're trying so much stuff. But when you actually have guardrails and rules, you really can grow. It's almost an oxymoron, but it really is the most powerful thing as a young person to really give yourself restriction.
Yeah,
I
it's
want to say
giving you
restriction.
space to
Space.
flourish. Yeah.
There you go. That's it. That's it. Giving you
Did it
space
also help with your self-worth with dyslexia as well, realizing that you're actually a whole person and that you're okay? Or was that later?
Yeah, I mean that's dyslexia is just, it's something that like, I don't know how else to process things.
Yeah.
This is the only thing I know. I don't know any other way. This is my saving grace. This helps me. So, it's the outside eye that, or the outside people who judge me and will make a judgment on that. But from this person, this is what helps me. Like, I know that I can lean into how I process things because it gives me the end result that I want. If I tried to do something without my dyslexia, I don't even know how to. I don't even know how to do that. So I think it's just something that I own, and I have never been shy about. Like, I love the fact that nowadays everybody talks about being dyslexic, which I'm super glad about. But like, even now when I get a job, and if we're going to do a table read, and I'm a grown person, I'm 3 decades into this industry. And there's always that very first moment when we're all sitting at the table, especially if there's like, big stars, there, and your script's right there, and you start to speak, and your eyes kind of, the words go crazy and you get freaked out. I'll start to say something and I'm like, oh, sorry guys, totally dyslexic. Just give me a second. And I just say
Love
it,
that. Yeah.
say it, and because I don't want to be ashamed of it. It's part of who I am. It's part of who I am. It's my perfectly imperfect self.
And it's so nice, you've got that line, you've got it. And I know we harped on it, but I'm just going to say it again. To pursue something that you knew would be, great for you, in acting and still, have that and still, kick that away and go, I'm going to do it anyway. It might be challenging, also going to be a lot of highs as well, and still do it. That's how we push above fear. And I think that's an amazing example to everyone. I also think, correct me if I'm wrong, that it would help you with resilience as well, given your life. So, as you know better than anyone, 30 plus years in the business, you have to be very resilient. The amount of rejections, the no's, how do you cope with that?
It's it's day by day, but I think I have a really healthy perspective on it. I've gone through all of it. Like I always try to tell young actors, I've gone through all of it. It wasn't my first pilot. I think it was my second pilot. There was one pilot that I did that I got recast. So we shot the pilot. It was a sitcom. We shot it. I was, all excited. It's going to get picked up. I think I told people, I'm on the show. I was all excited. And then I get the call. I get this call that, nope, you're not going to be continued. They're going to replace you. And it's awful. It's absolutely awful. It's like walking down the street and a wave of like depression, like just takes you and wraps you up. And it's awful, awful, awful. And I realized really early on, I was like, okay, Michelle, that is not sustainable. We can't, it's not sustainable to just, go into like a deep, dark hole every time you don't get something or something bad like this happens. And so from like that moment on, I wanted to, how do I say this? In every situation, I want to, I don't want to be a helpless victim. I want to participate in the situation. So I got recast. So I want to go, okay, all right. What can I do to try to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Empower yourself.
I'm going to try to figure out what I can do as an artist and as an actress to not have that happen again, or as if it within my power.
Yeah.
And in any situation, like with heartbreak or with loss of things, I don't want to be the victim of it and have it happening to me. I want to say, I'm part of there. I'm in this situation as well. What can I do next time to not have that happen again? Or what can I learn from that situation? And then the other thing, I became really, because my parents, my family's in the arts, and I was able to watch my dad and all that kind of stuff. I reminded myself that when I'm auditioning for something, there's a picture that the director and the producers are making, right? And they're sitting there and they're, going, okay, yeah, this is great for this picture and this here. And, oh, that person's good. You know what? They don't fit with this one because they're too tall, too short, too this, too that, whatever.
Eye color.
Eye color,
I've
whatever.
heard that one. Yeah.
Literally, and it's true. Like it literally could be that. So it's not that I suck. It's that I'm not right for that picture. So what I got into doing, which is what I try to tell like all young actors to do, is that when you get an audition, it might be the only time that you ever get to say those words of that character. Like say you were auditioning for Hamlet, like Hamlet in Hamlet. Oh my goodness. This may be the only time that you get to say these words in front of a bunch of strangers. Fuck it. Go and enjoy yourself. Like I love auditioning. I love auditioning because to me, I'm like, I've got an audience of people who have to watch me for whatever minutes I'm here. Here I go. And
I love that.
Enjoy it, and I get into it and I say it, and then I'll take the sides of the audition and I'll drop them in the garbage and I let it go. If they're smart and I fit the picture, they'll hire me. If I don't fit the picture, not as creative, I don't get the job and I can move on. But I did my best in that moment.
Okay, a gazillion questions. I'll just make a statement, then I'll get into the question. Most people that I know have been replaced or fired as an actor. It's just the nature of the business. And as you said, you might not fit the part. You might not even be, first of all, to get the job, you're obviously a good actor, but you just might not be right for the part and they see it. Game of Thrones, I think they replaced half the actors. It happens all the time. Obviously, that first feeling and that wave of depression and sense of self-worth and telling your family and friends you're going to be in the show, horrible. But how good that you learned that early because it taught you a better way to be. And my other statement is, and I know this is a lot easier said than done, but we all have a victim mentality regardless, and it can be justified.
Yeah.
But to go from kind of that growth, how can I do better mentality? That's my favorite mentality in the world. It's important to feel it like you did, but to then go, okay, this is what it is. How can I improve and be better within myself? Best mentality. This is why I love the podcast, why I love speaking to people like you, because it changes something for us. When you hear someone go through a potentially traumatic or difficult experience and seeing how you've rised above, I love it.
Yeah. And I always say this to people, you have the ability to mourn whatever the situation is for as long or as little as you want. So I could mourn for a day, a week, a month. I could mourn that loss of that job for a whole year. Don't know if it benefits me there. Or I can choose to mourn for a week or two and then go, okay, let's move on. Let's move on. What can we do now to benefit ourselves?
I love that. And have you found other things? Like I know you mentioned martial arts earlier. I believe that you've spoken about exercise. Are there certain things that have helped you kind of get out of your head at the acting world and just be present?
Well, I know it's funny. I would do, I mean, we don't do them as much anymore, but because back in the day we would have studio and studio tests and film tests, and we'd actually go in person and do that. And now everything's on Zooms, and it's just different. But
well said.
It's just different. But I always used to, and I still do to an extent, if say there is a job that I auditioned for and I really, really wanted and I didn't get, again, I allow myself to be like, that was sad, sucks for this moment. But then I try to give myself a gift of inspiration. So I will, and that, by the way, can be anything. It can be going outside and walking in a park, sitting by the water, going to the museum and seeing some art that I've never seen before, listening to music that I love or that I've never heard before, going to a restaurant of different food that I've ever eaten before. I try to give myself some kind of an inspirational act so that I feed myself. Instead of starving myself and berating myself because something bad happened, I try to feed myself, feed my soul, and again, not be the victim, but be active in the recovery of it so that I can go sort of, like I've learned something new in this day, well, I didn't get that job, but you know what? I realized that I love, I love impressionism, and I didn't know I loved impressionism, or I really enjoyed opera and I've never heard, or gosh, sitting by the park and watching, the kids play, soothed my soul. Any kind of thing that you can give yourself as a gift really helps. And I do talk about exercise because this one vehicle that I have, this one vehicle in this lifetime, just in case you believe in reincarnation, just in this lifetime, I want it to take me on many, many journeys, on many, many journeys. And the only way that I can make sure that this vehicle can take me on many, many journeys is to make sure that it's fed, it's healthy, it's moisturized, it's worked out, and it's capable. And with working out, I think it's probably one of the few times that we all give focus solely on ourselves.
Yeah.
Because that's a gift that you give your body. And you could be thinking about other things or whatever, but it's the only time where you're actually giving this vehicle the fuel, the oil, all of that good stuff to keep moving. So those are the things I do to try to, feed myself.
Love it times 100. And, a lot of actors in particular, it's all about just acting. You're talking about the body, mind, and soul. You're speaking my language, where it all feeds into the other. If you just, for example, are the accountant or the acting, the rest of your life will crumble. You need to have more of a balance. Super, super rare mentality, surprisingly. I love it. I want to know, were you always like this? Because when you first started out, I'm an actor. I've come out of college. I'm an actor. Everything I do is an actor. My sense of self is an actor. Were you always like that, or you realize there's a bit more to the picture?
Well, I mean, I was definitely a punk. So that was, I enjoyed Breaking Day and being a little punk, watching all Rocky Horror and all that stuff. But when I got to college, and I will say that when I got to college, I loved the lessons that I was learning. I loved that kind of stuff. But I was, and my school has changed a lot. It's grown a lot, which I love. I actually just received a distinguished alumni award from them the last 2 weekends ago, which was very.
Congratulations.
But when I was there, I had to play every single ethnic character. Like that's all I was cast as. That's all I was cast as. And it was frustrating because, I think, like I said this to the dean at one point. I said, because she's such a rabble rouser, but I said, just like any other actor or any other student, I should say, we sent in our check and it's the same money. So how come if this person gets to be considered for Juliet, but I'm only considered for the maid? Is there some different pay scale? Because if there's no different pay scale, then I should be considered for Juliet as well. And I remember being told by them at the time, they're like, well, Boston's just not ready for minority leads.
Really?
Killed me because I was like, well, what is there going to be a bell that you're going to ring and be like, hey, bring on the ethnics? I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. And not to mention that when you're in college, you've got like 18-year-olds playing, 50-year-olds. So,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? So when I got out of college, I definitely, I felt emancipated. I got out of college and I was just hungry. I was so hungry for work and hungry to get opportunities, the opportunities that I didn't get when I was in college. And so for me, I think when I got out of college is when I really started to just kind of, embrace art. I'm a terrible waiter. I can't do food services. There was one day that I registered at a temp agency for a receptionist, and they sent me to a place. That place called the temp agency and said, don't ever send her out again because she's terrible.
What a badge of honor.
Oh my God. Yes, right. A badge of honor. And I started doing, I'm here in New York and I'm living in my parents' home apartment. And I'm like, how do I get money? How do I do stuff? I started doing so much no-paying theater gigs because you can do tons of no-paying theater gigs here in New York.
Oh, nice.
And I loved it. It was awesome. It was so good. Sorry, hold on. Let me just make sure this tells stuff. It's
no sorries.
Yeah, that's right. And so I was doing all these no-paying theater gigs, and I was trying to figure out how do I make money. And so I started to study commercials. I would watch the commercials as opposed to take that time to go pee. I would literally lock in and just watch commercials and try to figure out how come they cast these people. What is it that they're doing that they are casting these people? And I started doing on-camera commercials and then voiceover commercials, and I used that to pay for my theater habit, I should say.
Habit.
And that, and then I started from that. I ended up doing more legit stuff. I think I got a soap opera. And then from a soap opera, I got like more hour-longs and half hours. And it just kind of rolled that way. And I'm proud to say that, and this is, no, I'm proud to say it. I was going to say I'm not bragging, which I'm not bragging, but this is the truth. I have supported myself through acting since I got out of college.
Oh, that is so rare. Congratulations. And you should be proud of that. And please correct my clumsy language as well. For someone to say we're not quite ready for whatever the wording was, first of all, you've got as you say, not only the age thing. Sorry, this is just funny for me because it's ridiculous. Or you've got a guy playing a 50-year-old woman or just like ridiculous things.
Right.
You would be justified. You would be justified to go, I don't want to do this acting thing. This is ridiculous. These people are blah, 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 blah.
Right.
But it goes back to your winning mentality, growth mentality, not allowing, and you're very justified from that victim perspective to go, I'm never doing this again. But not you. You had the chutzpah to go up to them and say, we're all equals. Why aren't I treated like this? And then to go even further, you can obviously be really, and I think you've mentioned your father in other interviews, it would have also been very tough for him as well. And so, you can see how it's not fair, it's unjustified times 1,000, but you still went in there. And not only did you continue, you went up and beyond. You studied. You went to learn commercials, and you became a commercial and voice actor as well. But you became like a wizard. You were thriving. And to get work, especially at that age, is so rare. So That is so empowering to hear, to not let like stupid people stop you, because it would have happened to so many people.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, I remember seeing that. And I remember seeing like in the senior year, I remember actors on their like the fourth floor of BU, everybody's crying and freaking out. And they're like, what am I going to do as an artist and how am I doing that? And all I kept thinking was like, I can't wait to graduate. I can't wait to graduate because I am done with how you guys see me. I'm ready to embrace the world. I'm ready to get a job. I'm ready to try new characters and to explore and have that, I was just so ready. I was so hungry. I always say that I was just so hungry when I got out of college. And it's really important. You really, I say this also. This is like, I think there was you might've been a question about like, what's a mantra or something that you live by.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always try to say to people is be your biggest fan. Just be your biggest fan, because if you wait, and this is the truth, if you wait for somebody else to be your biggest fan, you may wait forever.
Yep.
And they may never show up. And what a pity that is. What a pity that is. Be your biggest fan. I have many actor friends who have had people who champion them. Casting directors have championed them. Directors have championed, people have plucked them and all that stuff. I've never had anybody champion me. I'm in my later career now. I have a lot of producers and a lot of directors and casting people who love me, and now and I'm grateful for that. But for the whole beginning, because also not for nothing, but I'm biracial, and all this kind of hair and all that stuff, and it was just not. That was just not the flavor back in the day. In fact, I remember my commercial agent, who I love, my first time meeting him, and we were having the client, person
like
conversation or whatever, and he was saying to me, "So where do you connect mostly?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, where do you find yourself most comfortable?" And Michael, I knew exactly what he was saying.
I could tell,
Exactly what he was saying, but I didn't want to help him out. I didn't want to help him out at all, and I just kept going. What do you mean? Well, what do you mean? What do you mean? I know. He's like, do you feel you're more black or what? And literally I said, oh, do you want to know what to submit me for? And he goes, yes. What would you be comfortable? And I said, oh, yeah. Well, I'd be really comfortable if you submit me for characters that have a lot of words to say. Because I'm an actor. That's what I do. And what I love is that he saw me, he heard me, he got it, and he was like, I got you, Michelle.
Oh, okay, that's great. Because the screenwriter in me, and I'm not even coming from inverted commas a good person. The screenwriter in me just wants the best person to take the role. So, when an agent, and obviously it worked out well, but when an agent says that, you want to be put for all the roles, the best roles, and yeah, it's so counterintuitive for an agent to do that, because that's not the role of an agent. So that's very frustrating to hear. But I'm glad that you outwitted and thrived from there.
Oh, yeah.
Also, while this springs to mind as well, you would have to, and obviously there's a clear theme in your life of resilience, bravery, moving forward, knocking down doors that shouldn't exist. SAG-AFTRA, if that's how you say it. You were vice president?
Yes, well, I just stepped down from national vice president. I'm now, because it's a lot. I'm now the chair of the Sexual Harassment Prevention Committee. I'm a national board member. I'm on the executive committee. I'm on the diversity committee. I'm on the GAP committee, the GRC committee, the women's committee. I know I say yes way too often. But yeah, and I was part of the negotiating committee from our strike in 2024.
Okay, you're very humble. That's crazy. I don't know how you do that, plus your career and your family and friends anyway, and all the other stuff you do. Crazy.
I don't know how I
But you would have, just in particular, you would have seen a lot of things as well. And I know you've spoken about the strike, but that's a very challenging situation. You've seen the wave of different things. Being in the leadership team for something like that is hard. You've got people, not even just actors, you've got the world looking at you. Everyone, and you never ever, and I actually don't know the full extent, so I've only heard great things, but you're never going to please everyone.
Exactly.
How did you cope with that? Because even people in the team, and you don't need to give the dynamics, not everyone in the team is going to be on the same page. And now you're fighting against these like giants, and then you've got other people. Holy crap, that sounds terrifying.
It is. You're absolutely, I mean, I don't even know how. I mean, it's crazy. A few things come up when you ask me that. One, it was incredibly challenging, the whole negotiation, but it was enlightening and empowering because I literally got to really see how the sausage is made, so to speak. And, from my point of view, I really want to encourage artists as well as, you know, as well as every laborer. One of the things I have to say about this whole strike thing is that we did 7 months of strike, and people call it the hot labor summer, and actors are kind of shiny objects, and so people saw us. But the truth of the matter is that this is exponentially for all of us. There are so many people who are working hard and not making a living, and the expanse between the haves and the have-nots has gotten insane. I mean, Elon Musk is about to become a trillionaire. An individual is becoming a trillionaire. I mean, that's insane. There's no reason for that. You can't spend that money in 5 of your lifetimes. I mean, it's insane. And so what I hope happened is that during this whole strike, that more industries realize that they have to pay their workers, that, unionize if you can, strengthen numbers. That's the only way to win. Because watching how the sausage is made, they don't care about individuals. It's not about, they don't care. You can't say it's not fair. There's no word of fair when it comes to negotiations. What you said is correct. A successful negotiation is when both parties walk away not satisfied. So we had a successful negotiation. But it's really important to understand your worth and present yourself with that worth. When you walk into any kind of situation, when you're negotiating, don't think like, oh, but I smiled a lot and I was so nice and I'm so good at my job. I'm sure they're going to give me the, money that I'm worth. No. You tell people what you're worth, because if you don't, they will literally roll over on you. The other part of what was so eye-opening about it was, and I love my 160,000 members of SAG-AFTRA. I love my artists, but sometimes actors don't know things, as counterintuitive as that may sound, but they don't know every single thing.
Not everyone knows everything.
Not everyone knows everything. It's weird. And one of the most painful, I got to say, painful moments during that whole negotiation was, for 7 months, the negotiating committee were like the heroes of our union. They were like, go fight, and we'd get on the picket line and they'd be like, yeah. And, it was a beautiful sort of kumbaya, this whole thing. We finally, after 7 months, down to the last minute, we come up with a contract. We're now at agreement. We send that contract to the members to ratify. This is something, it took 7 months. Blood, sweat, and tears. There was like Sophie Choice moments. Where do we let this go or that go? Well, as soon as we sent it out to the members, they rebelled. And they basically were like, you guys didn't do enough. You guys are in their pocket. You guys, and they just started, you know what I mean? And that was one of the most painful moments of all of our experience in that 7 months, is that all we're doing is fighting for 160,000 members. We're not taking we don't get paid. We didn't get paid. Nobody gets paid no, Fran Drescher, who's the president, she doesn't get paid. None of us are paid.
Thankless job.
Literally a thankless job. And that was the most painful sort of revelation that I got, was like, wow, I think you said it. Half the people are going to like you, half the people are not going to like you. And that's just the given. That's just the way that it is. And you have to somehow find peace with it. But here's my why I do what I do. I'm a New Yorker. In New York, we have co-op apartments, right? You buy a co-op apartment. The co-op board can decide on what you can and cannot do in your apartment. A co-op board can decide what you can or cannot do in your apartment. Well, it behooves you to get on that co-op board, right? Because I want to have wood floors, or I want a washing machine and dryer. It behooves you. To me, that's why I volunteer for SAG-AFTRA, because these are my contracts. I'm working these contracts. I don't know about the people sitting next to me, but I know what I want to fight for. So I'm on that SAG-AFTRA board fighting for contracts that are strong and equitable for all of us and inclusive, because those are the contracts that I work. And that's the reason why I do the volunteer work that I do on SAG-AFTRA.
What springs to mind is like, be the change you want to see. And, you have got a lovely insight in, and it's in all regards in life, that when people come from fear you don't normally, not you, but other people, when they've come from fear, their livelihoods, their money, they're not going to see things as clearly. They're not in the meetings with you. You're also impacted as well because you are an actor. And so it's very easy to put blame, and, it worked well for me, and this could be a conversation for another time. But although it didn't quite work in that regard, I had a contract offer to have my first TV developmental deal. I've been writing for a while, so excited. And these producers, they weren't going to go with, the SAG-AFTRA, whatever it's called. They wanted to go their own way with the no unionized in that sense. And I know it's very important from an acting perspective. And if there weren't the eyeballs on what you guys did, they would be allowed to continue, and very dodgy stuff, no rights, no everything. It was terrible. So although it didn't work out for me, long term, I want my TV show, I'm desperate to get it out there. But long term, I'm smart enough to realize that when you have things in play, it's better for the long term. And, changes often, as we've spoken about, can be quite long and sometimes brutal in a way, but overall it's for the best. So I'm grateful in that regard as well. And, you put eyeballs on what's right and what's wrong, and it changes other industries. It's really important. So congratulations.
And you will. Thank you, my dear. And you will have your TV show, because you have something to offer. First of all, you have something to say, and that's incredibly important, because again, we need to see ourselves represented, and each individual person, that's a strong point of view. We need each individual thing. And now you know what you're worth. You know what you're worth.
That's great. You said it very well.
We will not allow anybody to sell you short.
Exactly. I appreciate that. And that's the lesson I got from that as well. Before we go, I want to tie up a few things. Spoken about Star Trek, and for people watching the video, you're wearing a Star Trek shirt as well. So for people, which is really cool. I don't normally comment on the actual performances and stuff, but I have to state with Star Trek Picard, and this is someone who wasn't a Trekkie. I've only got into it since lockdowns and all of that stuff. Holy crap. What a great show. I would say season 3 in particular was probably the best TV I've seen in years. And I told Todd Stashwick when I spoke to him a little while ago, that was phenomenal. I am so proud of you as well. And, we've spoken about ageism in Hollywood a fair bit on this podcast as well. But how nice after roughly 30 years, and you've had an amazing career as well. But to get a role like that, which is so well-rounded, and you talked about all the stuff you spoke about earlier on, and how nice was it to get a role like that after roughly 30 years as well?
Oh my gosh, Michael. I mean, I said it before. It was literally my birthday every single day for 3 years. It was the gift that keeps on giving. Jonathan Frakes said to me the first day that we were shooting, he said, Michelle, this job is unlike any job that you've ever had, even the big things that you've done, because when this show drops, immediately you will have 10 million family, it's like fans, but not fans, family members across the world. And I think I was like, yeah, okay, but didn't quite get it. And I remember my first time going to FedCom, which is in Germany. And it was amazing, because I was just like, oh, that's right. This is Star Trek. This is something that's been around for 56 years. 56 years, and is still strong. And every time someone talks to me, they say, oh, my father turned me on to this, or I watched this with my child, or my sister. It's a family affair, and it's an amazing thing to be a part of. And so that's just amazing. And then as an actor, to get Raffi, I mean, come on, she's
so great.
She's complicated. She's complex. She's flawed. She's troubled. She's vulnerable. She's strong. I mean, I was just just eating the whole time. It just, it's been the most amazing gift I could ever have wished for at this time in my career. And I love that it's at this time in my career, because I appreciate it so much. I'm honored by it. The fact that first season I got to work so much with Sir Patrick Stewart. Second season, I get to work so much with Jerry Ryan. Third season, I get to work so much with Michael Dorn. I mean, it just kept going. It kept, and then again, the aftermath is the interactions with the fans. I mean, it's just so glorious, and I am so humbled. I'm so grateful. I just, the only thing that hurts my heart is the thought that I, will never say Raffi words again. I've got my fingers crossed, my arms crossed, everything crossed, my eyes crossed that Star Trek Legacy will actually happen. I think we have an audience already baked in for us. So, I really do hope that it comes to fruition. I remember doing ADR for the last episode, and ADR is when you do the looping of your lines when there's some sound stuff on the original. And I was in the studios here in New York, and we did the finished thing. And I remember the editor who was on a Zoom, she said, well, Michelle, this has been such a great honor. We love having you. You're just the, best at it. And she's saying all this stuff. And I was like, oh, thanks so much. And then I realized, I was like, oh my God. Oh, that was the last word that I get to say as Raffi.
Wow. That
was the last time I get to say Raffi's words. And I mean, it just like my emotions came out immediately. And I, tears sprung to my eyes because I was just like, it can't be. It just can't be. And I remember at a con, again, talking to Jonathan Frakes, because he's the best. He said, Michelle, never say never with Star Trek. Never say never. Yeah. Anything can happen.
Okay. You said so many, just to be grateful and gratitude after, you've seen the highs, the lows, you've seen the best, the worst, and at this stage in the career, being that you've been so fulfilled in so many areas, to be so excited, the joy, the passion, I love it. Oh, what a joy. And, you also mentioned family, and I love that you come back to the fans, but from everyone I've spoken to, the family of everyone you've worked with, even if you haven't worked with them, it appears that once you've been in Star Trek, there's this community. And I know Todd's spoken about it a little bit as well. Even if you may have not done, acted with them, there's still like this bond. And I've never seen that before besides The Walking Dead, but Star Trek being the top of the game in that regard, that bond.
And I say that's the one. And I absolutely love Todd Stashwick. He knows that we love each other. He's phenomenal. He's such a good actor, and he's such a good man. But that's the thing. That's the other perk about going to the Comic-Cons is seeing my Trekkie family. It's just, it still blows me away. Like I was just at a Comic-Con the other weekend, and I was standing there doing something, and somebody came up behind me and put their arm around me, and I turn around and it's Marina Sirtis, but you know what I mean? I'm like, oh, yes, and here's a hug. And, then there's Gates right there, and there's Brent. And I mean, they're my friends. And they're just wonderful people. And, I thought about that because they talk about how for the decades they've all stayed connected. They'll have meals together and all that stuff. And, and for the, the new crew, some of us new ones, we are doing that as well. We're sort of staying connected and with the iconic actors as well. And it's just, you guys, it's one of the most amazing experiences as an actor you can have to be part of this beautiful Star Trek family.
You have sold it. Last question before we do a rapid fire segment. Did you ever think that you would do cons? And what was your first perspective like when you go there and you see all these numbers coming at you?
I know. I never thought, I don't know. I don't think it was even on my radar, because I was also, if you think about like where I started with Law and Order and all that kind of stuff, it was so procedural. It was all very, the kind of real modern day kind of, television, and, it's all very serious, and those don't really have cons. And I think it wasn't, and I'm so grateful. It wasn't until I got into Star Trek that I realized that under the awning of sci-fi, we actually do get to tell real stories. I thought we were telling those real stories in those other things. We tell real stories in sci-fi. Nice. We just, it's just made in a way that it's a bit more entertaining, and, you don't realize that we're talking about immigration, or we're talking about inclusivity or diversity. You don't realize it. And then you watch a show and you're impacted, and you can all of a sudden sort of go, they didn't like that person because they were blue? Wait a second. I mean, like, I think one of the most amazing episodes in the original is and I don't remember the name of it, but it's the one where there's the people who are black on one side and white on the other side. And then there's the other people who are black on one side and white on the other side.
Oh, that's interesting.
Oh, and they hate each other so much that they destroy their planet. Their entire planet explodes because of their divisiveness. So like right there, you want to go,
That's the
that
best
can't
storytelling. Yeah, as well.
storytelling. It's the best storytelling.
It's not, that's what I try to do in one of my sci-fi, well, actually in two of them that I've written. That's the whole point. You don't want to spell out. You want to show it in a magical way where everyone can feel it, not just no one wants to be lectured at. And we see that a lot in TV as well, but that's the best type of storytelling. Not that I'm
Best
saying
stuff.
I'm doing that, but you know what I mean?
I think you are. No,
I love
yeah,
that. I
no,
think, no, sorry.
yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, but the cons, I never really knew that I was going to do them, and I'm so grateful for them. And I remember the very first, well, it wasn't a con, but the very first time we went to a con, which was San Diego, which is the super con, and we were in Studio H, which is the biggest room, and it was our first time for first season. It was our first sort of announcement and experience, and it blew me away. Because again, Patrick Stewart's right here.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Yeah, everybody lost their mind, and it was just one of those things that I was just like, oh, I see what this is. Got it. And what it is everybody on the same page, hoping for love, being included, and the hope of a better tomorrow. And it's just a whole bunch of people who are all like, let's get that. Let's all be doing that.
I love the unity in the vision and of love. Before we
Yeah.
do the rapid fire, you mentioned I'm not up to date with any of the Star Trek goss, but you mentioned Star Trek Legacy. Is there a potential for a show coming up?
Well, we have so many people have written in. Terry Matalas, who was our showrunner for the last season, the OG of Star Trek, he was actually a PA on the first day that Jerry Ryan played Seven of Nine on Voyager.
Wow.
PA on that. They stayed friends, and now and he's a true like diehard Trekkie, and he got the opportunity to tell the story that he wanted to tell in the last season of Star Trek.
What a good! I'm going to reach out to Terry. That is a great story.
Oh, and he's great. You should he's wonderful. I love Terry. I love Terry. He literally, I remember second season, at the end of the season, when he was pitching me what he wanted to do for Raffi for third season, he said, so I've got this idea about Raffi. And I was like, yeah, what's the idea? And he goes, well, I want to bring to life what she, how valuable she was in her Federation days, because she's a spy. She's a really good fucking spy. Like that's one of her major strengths. And he said, so I'm kind of thinking of like Raffi and the Bourne Identity. I was like, okay, copy. I'm in. Let's sounds good. Yes. And
he probably didn't think you'd get straight away that yes, but he sold it. That is a great pitch. That quick, straight. I need to learn that.
Right? How could you say no to that? Yeah.
Wow. Amazing. I'm glad that you had that. And we're putting it out to the universe. We get many spin-off shows, Yeah, it's very exciting. If anything gets even remotely as close as Star Trek Picard, and for someone, as I said, I haven't been a Trekkie until recently, phenomenal. You don't even need to like Star Trek to watch Star Trek Picard. That's basically where I started. Anyway, phenomenal. We're going to do a very quick rapid fire segment to wrap up the podcast. So the first thing that springs to mind, but you can take your time, and I won't comment on them because I'll derail them. What are you most proud of?
That's such a good one. You know what? I'm really proud of Raffi. It's the best character I've gotten to play in my 30 years.
Nice. And is there the one role, the one character you want to spend more time with outside of Raffi? Obviously, we want 30 more seasons.
Raffi?
Yeah.
But outside of Raffi, I always say this, that my favorite thing to do as an artist is to play a normal, flawed human being in an extraordinary situation. And that's what I really want to focus on.
Nice. What is the Crown Act?
Yes, the Crown Act is creating a respectful and open world for natural hair. We have it codified in about, I think, 20 some states in America. We're still trying to get it codified in all states. And what it is it basically protects people who have natural hair from being discriminated, from not getting jobs, from being bullied. It's also trying to encourage people because this is kind of crazy. In order to get a cosmetology certificate in the States, you don't have to study ethnic hair. So you can get that and work on any kind of in a salon and whatever and never touch ethnic hair. And what's insidious about that is that people of color, because they work on our natural hair, they can take care of every single hair follicle because they work on our hair as well as white hair. Now we have been able to move it since 2024. This is the first year, 2024, in New York and Louisiana. They are now including ethnic hair in getting your certificate for cosmetology, but it's only 2 states. So that's the Crown Act. Please support it if you hear about it.
That is really cool. And I've learned so much about hair because we just had our wedding and my partner, she has inverted commas regular hair, but trying different people and the stress, and I'm not comparing. I know it's holy moly. That is very underrated. Good for you. What is your next big dream or goal?
What is my next big dream or goal? It's so funny. Sometimes I get really specific with these things, like right now because of the strike that we had and all that stuff and where I think our industry is. I keep saying I want a TV series that's on network television because it's the only thing that's sustainable right now. I want to be either 1, 2, or 3 of the episodes. I want my pay to be equal to 1, 2, or 3. I don't want to be the one that's marginalized, and I want my character to have purpose and help move the story on forward, not just exposition. That's as specific as I can be.
I think that's brilliant. You've manifested very clearly, so it's going to happen. Any advice you want to give people who want to try something different or new, but perhaps a bit fearful of doing so?
Yes. We mentioned it earlier. My mother is 91 years young, and she is proof positive that if you love what you do, it will actually give you life, literally give you life. I encourage everybody who's out there, if you're not doing what you love, what are you waiting for? You're living life right now. It's happening right now. Be bold, be brave. Don't live with fear. Move forward with excitement and challenge and discovery. See what else you can do. If there's that thing that you've always wanted to try, go for it. Do it. Why not? And the truth of the matter is what you're doing now, if you're not happy about it, you can always go back. It's not going anywhere. It's not going anywhere. Why not explore something new? Do what makes you smile. Do what makes you nervous. Do what makes you sort of excited to try. And you know what? Super cool and super correct to fail. Super great. Failing is the way that we learn how to do things. If everything was easy, it's not worth it. And you never know if you're doing it right or wrong. It's okay if you try something and it doesn't work the first time. Try and try again until you get it, until you are satisfied. I just encourage everybody. Life is so short. It's so precious. It's so fragile. We always think we have tomorrow, but tomorrow's never promised for anybody. So do what you want now. Live life. Do that thing. Go get it. I encourage you.
I'm constantly amazed by people's wisdom and advice and also their takes on failure. That was a new one. I love that. Thank you for that. That, it energizes me. Last question before I ask how people can follow you and keep up to date with you. What is the one question I should have asked you?
What is the one question you should have asked me? What is the one question? You asked some good questions.
Thank you.
Yes. Maybe I think we've already said it though. It's sort of what is your mantra? What would you tell your younger self? And it's all the same. It's all the same. And we've already spoken about it. It's just, be your biggest fan, love yourself, respect yourself. Self-preservation is key. As the steward on the airplane says, put your oxygen on first. If you don't put your oxygen on first, you might be able to help the person next to you, maybe the one over there, but you certainly won't help anybody else, and you may not even be able to help yourself. Do that for yourself. Be brave, be bold. Don't care about what society thinks. Never try to homogenize yourself. The individual that you are, the individual that you look like, how you sound, how you smell, what you think, that's what society needs to hear and see and learn from. Not towing the line. Be unique, be bold, be brave, be here. I'm excited to see that.
Brilliant. I have nothing to add to that. Brilliant. Before we go, how can people follow you and keep up to date with you?
I'm on Instagram at Real Michelle Hurd, and on, I guess, what is it? X, Twitter. that thing.
Yeah, I can't. X is so weird to say, but yeah.
So weird. And I don't really, it's Michelle Hurd on that. I don't really go over there. I kind of pop in every now and then. But Instagram's probably the way. And I am on Facebook as just Michelle Hurd.
Amazing. We'll put that all in the episode notes below so people can check it out. I just wrote a few words of many that describe this chat. I appreciate your authenticity, or how you embrace authenticity, your resilience, your compassion, your empathy. This was a great chat. Thank you so much. And I had a great time.
Thank you, Michael. Really the same here. You're just wonderful to talk to. Very easy. You made me feel very comfortable. And I do hope we do this again. Please. That would be wonderful.
I love how Michelle encourages us to run our own race. Often in life, we think we need to conform, but Michelle so eloquently states that we're all unique, and what may work for one person may not necessarily work for another. She believes that our very own distinctive qualities allows us to walk our unique path and to reach our own destinations. I love how Michelle embraces her individuality and uniqueness. You may get to that point differently to someone else, and that's to be celebrated. It is what makes this world so brilliant. My understanding is that although it can be easy to compare and feel we have to emulate someone or something, take a step back and realize that you thrive by being you. The only race worth running is the one with you. So I'll leave you with this epic quote. If you continuously compete with others, you become bitter. But if you continuously compete with yourself, you become better. Unknown. Thank you for listening to the Funny and Failure podcast, exploring the deeper side of comedy.